it's hard to fathom Good Friday. It's hard to fathom the passion and death of the Lord that he willingly endured, though innocent. He willingly endured. But what's, for some reason, for me, what's even harder to fathom is tonight, is his time with his disciples before he died. At the Last Supper, Jesus, he sits down and he spends some quality time with his disciples. There are several, well, at least a few chapters of John, which are really well worth reading tonight. I would encourage you to read them. This gospel is from John chapter 13, and you can really read for this one and the next 3 chapters, and stay well within that prayer of the Lord during that time. That is to say, tonight, as it were. I suppose actually it goes even well through, maybe almost into chapter 19 in terms of the Garden of Gethsemane. But there's so many things Jesus gives to his disciples in these few chapters, a lot of which was at the Last Supper. And why that's hard for me to fathom is because Jesus is going to die the next day. In a few hours' time, he's going to be arrested. He's going to be abused and mistreated. That's going to lead to torture, condemnation, humiliation, and death. And what does he do? He gathers with his disciples and says, I've earnestly desired to celebrate this Passover with you. I've looked forward to spending this time with you. You only would say that if you really loved someone. How else could you ever say, how else could Jesus have said that? And I think if it were me, don't you think if it were you, don't you think about what that would be like? I don't know when I would run away from the cross. Eventually it would probably happen. It would definitely have happened, let's be honest. All of the disciples run away. But I don't know if I would have been so generous with my time. If Peter came up to me with a question, I'd be like, can you just give me a little space? I'm going to die tomorrow. I think this is a bad time for you to ask me a question. If Judas came up and asked me something about the money and making a donation, I think I'd probably take it out on him a little bit. You traitor. And Jesus doesn't do that. I think it's good for us to look at this just on the human level of, I have something really serious tomorrow. Where I really have something big. It's going to be really hard or it's going to be really important. But I'm going to take time away from whatever preparations or whatever worrying I had to do. And I'm going to give of myself to those that I love. Can I just say, that's bringing Jesus to the center of the life of your family. And on a small level, you probably have the opportunity to do that almost every night. At least a lot of you would. Maybe all of you. Especially, I'm speaking of parents, perhaps more so. But sometimes older siblings. Yeah, you've got stuff to do for college. It's not easy just because it's online. That doesn't make it easier. But what about spending time showing love to your family? Maybe it's your parents, maybe it's your siblings. On a human level, this is very difficult, even in small ways. Let's take a moment to appreciate what Jesus did. He did this before his passion because he loves his disciples. He loves them, and he wants to give them everything that he can give them. He wants, principally, this is the thing, Jesus needs them to understand what is happening tomorrow. Okay, it's Holy Thursday. Jesus needs them to know what Good Friday is all about. And so he tells them. At the time when they would be preparing for the Passover, They're celebrating basically a Passover meal, and Jesus institutes himself as the new Passover lamb. He institutes the Eucharist. That it's not about eating the Passover lamb, the flesh of an animal, anymore. As they used to commemorate the Passover lamb whose blood set them free from slavery to Pharaoh, from death, from Egypt. Now, Jesus says, you're going to eat my flesh, and you're going to drink my blood. This is the blood of the new and eternal covenant, which will not set you free from Pharaoh. It will set you free from Satan. It will set you free from death. It will not set you free from slavery, to building cities for some foreign power. It will set you free from sin, from a life lived to your own pursuits. And so he institutes the Eucharist, his body and blood, so that they understand that tomorrow on the cross, this is the Lamb of God who's taking away the sins of the world by his sacrifice. And then he says, do this in remembrance or in memory of me. Do this. He commands them to celebrate the Passover, to celebrate the Eucharist, to celebrate Mass. He hands over this most important mystery to them on the night before he died. The last thing somebody says, the last time they spend with you, the last really good meal that you share, that they took the time to share with you before they died, when they knew they were going to die. They're not going to waste words with unimportant things. Everything Jesus says in these chapters, it's like bolded or highlighted. This is especially important to him. And he does not want them to miss this. So he hands over the mysteries of his body and blood of the Eucharist, that at every Mass, we're commanded to do this in remembrance of him. To Jesus, once again, makes present his body and blood. He hands this over to these 12 men. They are priests. They're actually not just priests, but they're apostles, the forerunners of the bishops. Now, in the lesser sense of the word apostle, there are many apostles, but in the capital A sense of the word apostle, there are really only 12. 13 if you count Judas and Matthias, and maybe 14 if you count Paul. But really there's 12. There are 12 offices because there are 12 tribes of Israel. So he hands it over to them. This is the institution of the priesthood. Jesus chooses these 12 men to offer this sacrifice, and Jesus still chooses men. And he conforms them to himself as head and shepherd. To serve, to shepherd, to preach the gospel, but centrally to celebrate the mysteries of the Eucharist and the sacraments. And Jesus might be calling you, if you're a single Catholic man, it's always possible. Yes, he might be calling Mark, he might be calling you to the priesthood. And it is Jesus who chooses and calls. It is the same now as it was then. And there are still those who will be like Judas. The church, for all the ways that times have changed, humanity and human nature have not changed. But we can never let Judas shake our faith in Jesus. He was there at the Last Supper. The same kind of betrayal has existed in the church since, and it's still in our midst today. I don't know why Jesus allows that, but he does. Don't let Judas shake your faith in Jesus, and don't let that dismay you, dissuade you from being open to a call to the priesthood. When Jesus hands this over to these men, he wants them to know what it really means to be one of the 12. Now, Judas was one of the 12, but as you know, he leaves the Last Supper early to betray the Lord, to go and for 30 pieces of silver, sell Jesus out. But as Jesus is instituting the priesthood and as he's handing over the Eucharist, he wants them to know what it means to be one of the head guys, one of the 12. Presumably, Judas had thought that this was going to be glory for him. This was going to be financially awesome for him. This was going to be, wow, he was going to be somebody. This is my take, okay, on Judas. And he realized that's not what it was, because Jesus was not interested in a worldly, earthly kingdom. Jesus was going to the cross. And it would involve humility and sacrifice and not any earthly esteem or power. And so he left. Jesus tells him, if you're going to do this, go do it quickly. And Judas leaves. And Jesus shows them what it really means to be one of the 12. He says, if you really want to be like me, I am your master and your Lord. You call me master and Lord, and I am. And then he washes their feet and he says, if I, your master and Lord, have done this for you, you should do this for one another. He shows us what it means to have authority, whether that means as a priest or a bishop or as a mother or a father or authority in the workplace. Just being a Christian means having a servant's heart. And more than that, it means living out a life of actions of service. It means that the greatest among you, as Jesus had said previously, is not the one who everyone waits on and serves. The greatest among you is the one who serves others. And he doesn't want his disciples to miss this because he wants them to hand on the faith. He wants them to hand this on and show the rest of the church. Because these people know Jesus. Maybe they don't know him faith-wise, but better than everybody else. Obviously, Mary knows him the best. But people know that these guys spend a lot of time with Jesus, and so they want to know, what is it really like to serve Jesus? What is it really like to have him lead you? Who is he? What is he really like? Jesus wants them to know who he really is, and so he gives them this foot washing. So that when they go out and when they preach, they won't do it out of arrogance. When they go out and they just interact with people, it will be an interaction of humble service. This is so important because when Jesus says, love one another as I have loved you, this washing of the feet is one of the most central things. I think next to the cross itself, maybe the most central thing that he does to show us what that means. When you wash somebody's feet, you were really humbling yourself. We don't have an appreciation for this because we don't walk around on dusty roads with sandals all day. But it was not an act that he would do. It was a great act of kindness, but it was a very humbling task. A very humbling thing to do. As he hands this over to us, to the church, he's saying to all of us, I want you to receive my love. I want you, his body and blood, his soul and divinity in the Eucharist. I want you to receive my love for you, that I'm holding nothing back. I'm laying down my life for you. But I want you to remember the way that you lay down your life for one another is lived out on a daily basis with these acts of service. Some of them very small. Some of them very menial. Some of them all of them humble. And sometimes you might get noticed for an act of service. That's okay too. But washing people's feet wasn't glamorous. You wouldn't get noticed for it. Maybe in a bad way. Not in a way that dignifies you and makes you look, wow, isn't that amazing? Yeah, he's not asking us to. He's not asking us to look for accolades. He's asking us to love. He's asking us to love through service. So that when people know who you are as a follower of Jesus, so they know you're a follower of Jesus and they see the way that you act and the way that you treat them, then they'll know what he's really like. What's it really like to be in the inner circle? You go to Mass every Sunday. You watch Mass on Facebook Live and you can't be there. You must know Jesus. You must know what he's like. Give us the inside scoop. Yeah, people might not say that out loud, but it's becoming more and more a curiosity because faithful Catholics are a little bit more rare than we used to be. And when people want to know about the Catholic Church or any religious tradition, they want to know it from somebody who's legit. So what will you show them? What will they learn from you? What will your actions teach them about Jesus?